Welcome to Heart of the Matter Radio with author and host Cynthia L. Simmons. How does a godly woman live in a world out of sync? Cynthia digs into the issues women face in our complex culture to set a path through the chaos. It's for women seeking the elegance of God's wisdom. So prepare yourself to listen, learn, and rest. Now here's your host, Cynthia L. Simmons.
Technology has made much of our work easier. Like when I grew up, we didn't have microwaves and cell phones. We had to put things in the oven. And to be able to imagine putting a plate in the microwave or a paper plate in the microwave is absolutely amazing. But today, we have also the internet. And as far as our children are concerned, that creates a lot of danger. And we want to make sure that our kids are safe because the world is a very different place than when we grew up. So today I have John DiGirolamo. He is a man who has written about safety on the internet and human trafficking. I had the mistaken impression for years that human trafficking happened elsewhere or that it happened on the border, but it happens right in your house because you have an internet. So John is going to tell us a little bit about what these people are doing, the predators, and what grooming is all about. So welcome, John.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Tell us about what is happening out there on the internet.
Sure. So, I think the first thing to kind of level set with the audience to help them understand is that today's kid and teen is different from any other generation. They've grown up with technology since day one, and they view having a large number of friends and followers as a goal. I view that as a problem because I guarantee that if your high schooler has 1,000 friends, which is not that uncommon, they'll have somebody in there that's not really a friend. It's a predator. It's somebody that they don't know. But today's teen looks at online relationships in a similar way to kind of face-to-face real relationships, and that's kind of different than other generations. And so they're a little bit more trusting of people that they've met online. And these predators are out there looking for trouble. Your kid may not be looking for trouble, but I guarantee trouble is looking for them.
Okay, so what do these predators look like and what did they do?
As far as what they look like, you really can't tell what a predator looks like just from kind of physical descriptions. Now, what they'll do is they will set up many times a fake profile of somebody of similar age, of similar interests. So, for example, if your teenager is really into soccer, they're going to set up fake profiles like that. And if you look at stats from, say, the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, they point out that predators are looking for three things. They either want to extort money out of that teenager, they want to get explicit pictures, or they want to meet for some kind of encounter. And so that's what they're after. And sometimes they're very quick about what they're wanting, and then other times they're going to groom that person over a longer period of time. And they're going to typically send out hundreds of friend requests, seeing who's going to respond to them. And the teenager that does respond is the one that they're going to zoom in on.
Okay, so you talked about grooming, and I've heard a lot about that. Can you describe the grooming process?
Sure. So the first thing they're really want to do is they're going to try to gain some type of trust with that person. And a lot of times, a teenager will go online because they're bored or they're lonely. And as soon as the predator finds out what's going on in that person's life, that's when they're going to, they're going to lie to them. They're going to say, especially if they have a fake profile, that they have similar interests. They're going to want to befriend that person and affirm whatever they're doing, whatever they're thinking. And they're also going to try to isolate that person from their friends and family. They're going to say that the predator is the only one who really cares about them, really understands them, and a lot of times that's going to lure that teen away from their real family and their real friends. And those are some of the tactics that they use to initially, kind of get that trust and get them really manipulated.
So this would start with perhaps a friend request, or maybe another friend would recommend this person. What does it look like?
Yeah, it's typically a friend request. So, for example, I interviewed an undercover police officer who went online with a fake profile of a 13-year-old girl, and he had people sending this 13-year-old friend requests literally within the first hour, and within that same day, he had people asking this 13-year-old out for a quote date. And as the profile owner, he would reply back and say, "What do you mean by a date? I'm only 13. I don't know how to drive. I have to ride my bike where we're going." And they pretty quickly can get into wanting to meet with them. And this officer met this person at a motel and promptly arrested him. And on that guy's computer, they found that he had just sent out hundreds of random friend requests, and about 90% had accepted that friend request without question. Because again, a lot of these kids and teens, they want to have a large number of friends and followers. That's how you kind of value your popularity of how many likes did you get in your Snapchat story or something like that. And so the teens are vulnerable to that.
So they are going to immediately ask for a visit somewhere. I mean, that's pretty bold, right?
It is, and again, they're sending this out to hundreds of people, so it just depends on who is responding to them. And if they find a response, they're going to try to figure out who this person is, and they're going to give them lots of compliments. They're going to say, "You're so pretty, you're so talented, only I understand you." And they're really trying to kind of feed that person's ego. And it's always been difficult growing up. It's always been difficult being a teenager. But in today's world, the kids really look for that online affirmation, and the predators are they know that, and they're going to focus on that.
Now, does the predator already know where that person lives? Because they might be too far away to actually have a personal meeting.
Yeah, so a lot of times when people set up a profile, they will say what school they go to. Somebody could easily do a Google search. I've seen reports where the predators, they'll drive hours cross state lines just to meet up with somebody who's agreed to meet up. So that long distance isn't necessarily a deterrent, but clearly they're going to look for somebody who's local, and a lot of people will do that. And many times a predator will say something like, "Let me send you a gift," and they send that person an Amazon package.
And then they give them an address.
By definition, if you send a package, that person's address. So yeah, so they'll do little tricks like that.
Wow, that's scary. Should we be teaching our kids to be skeptical of people that give them compliments online?
Absolutely. And typically what will happen is a predator will look for somebody in a very popular application, say Snapchat or TikTok, or some kind of game. And once they do that, they're going to want to go into a private chat room or go onto a messaging service. That's where they get that one-on-one online connection, is through these chat rooms. And as a parent, what you have to well, there's lots of things you should be doing, but one of the things that you should be doing is talking to your kid about some of these predator tactics, and to say, if you don't really know that person, if you haven't met that person live and really know who they are, then you really shouldn't be talking to them online, because it's so easy to slip up, give out information. What school do you go to? What's your address? Things like that.
Okay. Well, we'll talk more on the next interview about that. This is really good information. I appreciate your time, and this is very good. Thank you.
Want to give a big thank you to John for being with us today. His book is It's Not About the Predator, and his website is itisnotabout.com. And don't make it into a contraction, because that's what I did, and it gave me a warnings. Itisnotabout.com is his website. I am Cynthia L. Simmons. You can find me at clsimmons.com. I reach out to moms and talk about all kinds of topics that they need, and I get right to the core of the issue. That's why this is Heart of the Matter. And I'm offering God's timeless wisdom, and thank you so much for listening.
You've been listening to Heart of the Matter Radio with Cynthia L. Simmons. Your comments and questions are always welcome. Contact us at cynthia@clsimmons.com. We'd love to hear from you, whether you're an author, young mom, a mother of teens, a homeschool mother, or an empty nester. Join us next time as Cynthia once again sets a path to grow in wisdom and a closer walk with the Savior, here on Heart of the Matter Radio.